everybody, and welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox here in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. And yeah, we're slightly despondent about having to cancel the first attempt at the Northern Lights tournament, but we will be back next year, still formulating a plan as to how to encourage people to come on all the way up to Abbotsford, which is actually closer to most of you than Vancouver is. But it'd be great to have people up here playing some games. And so we're going to be retooling it, and I got a lot of great suggestions from you as to what might be a more of a pull, and that's great. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. So if you're watching this and you don't know about the last video, yeah, just you can go ahead and watch that. But essentially, the skinny is that I had to cancel it due to just not enough participants to make it work. So if you do have any reasons why on my end of things you weren't going to come, let me know. The vast majority of you were time and money, and I totally understand that, especially in the summer. You've typically already scheduled a family vacay, and your time and money is being put towards that. So I get it. I appreciate it. My son is out of the house. He's living on his own now. So my wife and I, we've set aside our time for our little trips this year too. And if, somebody puts on a different tournament, well, it's like, well, I've already made plans. So, and that's why I can't go to Twisted Lords this year. I'm already going to Sky Marshal Cup this week coming up, and looking forward to that. And then another little game reunion that I go to every year since '98. So we're in I think this is our 26th year of doing it. And just me and 4 other buddies who've known each other since the early '90s and have a great time. So yeah, everybody has limitations on time and budget, so I get it. But next year I've already got some good ideas, and we're going to advertise it early in the year, right in January or so. And we're going to hopefully be able to encourage more people to take part. I think you'll be excited about it, and judging from the comments, this will tick some boxes for some people. But before we get going into today's unboxing and a game, I just wanted to show you this bad boy. I was able to pick this up. I saw this on, somebody put it on Facebook actually, on the Axis and Allies, one of the Axis and Allies pages, and said, oh, they're selling these for 49 bucks Canadian on Amazon. And sure enough, they were. So I scooped one, still in shrink. Just going to hang on to that bad boy. Might be a giveaway someday. They didn't have Europe. Europe is still like 160 bucks or something. So no accounting for accounting. But this is the one that I was able to pick up. And a few of you have, and I've seen some videos on it already. I've already opened the box here, just so you don't have to go through that. But this is the re-release by Renegade Games of the 1914 offering. And I have yet to even unwrap the shrink. So I'm going to do that now, and we'll put this on speedy up. Okay, well, there you go. That is, and it's all in shrink, and looks like it's been very well packaged. Looks like it's in good shape. So that's nice. And the Pacific 40 did have a little nick. It's missing some plastic in a corner, so, but definitely a much older game. So this is the re-release. It's got the Renegade Limited badge on there. And apparently it's got more chips, and it's got more British and more German infantry, because as we know, you couldn't even, with the original release, you couldn't even build a German infantry because you didn't have any. So you had to just got to throw some chips down, and then when you put 2 infantry stacks together, you'd chip one out, right? So we're going to get this unwrapped, and we'll see what it looks like. Alright, got the plastic wrap off of there, and this is the part we all love, right? Whew! That's pretty potent right there. I'm here to tell you. All right. That is the box. Of course, the cardboard roundels, which I probably will not punch. So I've got all mine from Historical Board Gaming's site. And then here we got G.I. Joe, Transformers, and Power Rangers. So they're trying to hit the nostalgia button there for people. Of course, you got your rule book. I'm not sure if there's been too many differences to this, too many changes. Looks very similar. Actually, that artwork looks a little different. But I'll do a compare and contrast later. And we got the battle board, and I don't know why, but the battle board actually comes punched. I don't know why it's just not a board, but there you have it. And of course, the two-piece map, and I believe that's all the same. I don't believe there's anything different there. Alright, you got your black dice, and that does look like there's a few more chips in there. Not as many as I've bought. Again, Historical Board Gaming saved my life on this game because there's a lot of holes in this game from the first release. So, let's just see here. I'm not sure why there are 3 German battleships when you could put more of that into other things. But hey, I guess it allows someone to go big on the Kriegsmarine. What's it called? The Kriegsmarine in 1914? I honestly don't know. Probably. And yeah, lots of boats in here. Didn't think there'd be that many boats. And it's the tanks though, because I went and bought the new sculpts at HBG. I know this is sounding an HBG commercial, and that's fine because they've supported me crazy. Well, Doug has supported me to a crazy extent, and this game here, like I say, kind of shafts you on the pieces. Looks like I've got 1, 2, 3 tanks in here. Oh, 4. So 4. I think the original release had 3. Could have had 4. So, if anything, they're at least the same amount. So that's good. And all the stuff's there. So, I'm not going to go through every box here. That'll bore you to tears. But what we're going to do is we'll set it up. And I'm going to do a solo game of this. And it's probably going to take a couple of days because it's kind of a busy weekend. It's July the 1st. It's Canada Day today. And it looks like it's going to be a hot one today. We're going to be up around like 28 degrees or something, which is, I don't even know what that is, 80 something Fahrenheit. So it's going to be a hot, sunny day. And wife and I are going to go out biking for a couple hours here this morning. And yeah, so I'm going to take a little time. I'm going to throw some memes into this one. I know a lot of my videos recently haven't had too many extras in them, just because I've wanted to get the content out there. But this is going to be a more entertaining video, just for fun. As you know, I'm a teacher. We're off now, so I got a little bit of time. Trying to get together with Hell on Wheels off in the UK to do a game this week. Hopefully he can, but he just moved as well, so into a new house, and is getting things settled there. So that's always exciting. And so, barring that, I should be able to get this game done probably in the next couple days. And then what you're hearing, of course, is filmed on the first day. But it's going to be, I think it's going to be a bit of a marathon. But we're going to set this thing up. Like I say, I'm probably not going to use this here. I'm going to leave those all in the bags. You never know when I can do a nice giveaway someday. You know, this was about 140 bucks Canadian, 100 bucks US, as you know. And since I live close to the border, I could just get it shipped to a box I have across the line and go pick it up. So it only cost me gas and time and some interesting conversations with border guards. So what'd you pick up? A game. Why didn't you just have it shipped to your house? Because they save 40 bucks US on shipping, that's why. So, but again, to all you border guards out there, love the job you do. Just keep working on that sense of humor. All right, so next thing you see is you're going to see this game all set up, but my version, the old Wizards, I think it's a Wizards of the Coast game, and I'll have that set up right away. Next thing you'll see, round one, getting ready to go. Okay, I lied. Liar! Liar! Next thing you see is not going to be the game set up, but what it's going to be is just a little compare and contrast. Okay, so this is what this corner looks like in this version. So it's just got the Uncle Sam there. Over here it has the Uncle Sam plus the age and the players and time expected. And in here it has the age. This is the old box. And on here, of course, it has the Renegade Limited logo. And the top is very much the same because it's an Axis and Allies thing. Yeah, so up here they've got the just how many pieces and Larry Harris's name, of course. And over here it's got the 2 to 8 players, which was solved by that down there. So very similar. Not, I don't see any differences on the boxes other than that. And I am going to check that one thing that I saw that was different, I thought, in with the... Nope, I was wrong. I think the artwork might be a little different though. Alright, here we go. We're going to try to set this thing up so it's... Oh, for Pete's sake. There we go. This is what happens when you don't pay your staff. They don't come in on weekends. Excuse me. Alright. So, looking here. Carbon copies, except the old one has the age and number of players on the cover. This one here is a little cleaner. Doesn't have that information there. And I don't... Yeah, so again, they really seem to be enjoying this logo, or this information, because it's being put everywhere. And it's not in the other one. Maybe just to fill up that blank space. That is a lot of dead air there. And yeah, it's all the same. Just the colors seem to pop a little bit more on the new one. Seem to be a little brighter. The yellows are yellower, the reds are redder, the blues are bluer. And yeah, these are all the same. All the same. Yeah, so it's basically the coloring. Everything else is the same. Oh, the dice here. They made the dice bigger on that. I don't know if this interests anybody, but you can fast forward, of course. See the dice are the tiny little dice. Here they enlarge them, so just to make you think the dice are bigger than they are. All right. But so far, ooh, Constantinople. Ooh, Constantinople is a different thing here. Is one territory, no land movement required. I think I've read that elsewhere in here, though. Yeah, so looks like they've got some minor differences here. Suez Canal, and then there's Constantinople, which you think might be over here on this page, but it's not. But I think I've read that Constantinople someplace else. All right. And we'll... Oh, what is going on here? Oh, the Russian Revolution. Looks like there's a lot more to it. So I'm going to have to go over that and see if there is any differences. Because there is... The Russian Revolution in this book, the old book, is just like a third of a page. And here, it's the whole shooting match. So, yeah. So, I wonder if there's some stuff there I'm going to have to look into. And we got the order of play. All that's the same. It's kind of put in different spots though, that's all. That's all. Yeah, so the Russian Revolution sure got expanded in the rule book. I don't know if the actual rules have been expanded upon. And then, looks like the C units are all the same. Naval minefields, transports. Yeah, it just looks like the way that they've put it together. They've moved things around, changed the font size a little bit, and you can see that the artwork is in different positions. And taking control of a yeah, so you know what? It looks like it's just artistic stuff. For the most part, again, the Russian Revolution might be a thing. Yeah, and of course the game itself, winning the game is the same. So All right. Well, there you go, folks. Now, the next thing you're going to see is the game set up. I promise. I almost definitely promise. Almost. Well, look at that. Hilltop keeps his promises. You know, most of the time. But anyway, so here we are. We're ready to go. Got the board set up. And got our Global War from Historical Board Gaming, their 1914 to 1918 game, which I don't have the pleasure of owning yet, but we're working on it. And we got all the armies set up, and these are the build plates with the army tiles that you can use here. And if you haven't seen these before, you know, you've got a bunch of guys there, and then you put this here, and you can tell that all of that stuff would be there, right? And that's really handy, especially up in here. This northwestern Europe area gets very, very clogged sometimes. The Russian areas are much more spread out. It's not quite so bad. This is the real problem area right in here for most of the game. So, as I like to do in these games, because when you play solo, you can just kind of go with the flow, or you can try to you know, develop a strategy and follow it. So what we're going to do here is, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We are going to try to capture Moscow. We're not going to play with the Russian Revolution rules, and there are a couple of different things in there. So we're just going to not play with the Russian Rev rule, but we are going to try to take Moscow. Okay? That's going to be the goal. So the Germans are going to be holding a delaying action, or fighting a holding action, pardon me, here on their western front. Okay? And they are going to try with the Austro-Hungarians to take Moscow and then whirl about and come back. Now, I've done this before, and typically what happens is that the French and the British become so powerful that they end up taking the Ruhr, taking Alsace, and swapping Kiel back and forth, and eventually it's just too big of a beast. The French and the British are too big of a beast. Even if Moscow falls, then the German stuff is way out of position, and then Berlin tends to fall. So, what we're going to do this game is the Germans are still going to try to go for Moscow, but we are going to try to maintain a naval presence of submarines. And we're going to build subs. They're $6 a pop. So we're going to try to build subs in order to keep the British from getting a fleet together. Now, it's a bit of a tall order because, of course, the French have a couple of battle wagons here they can send up and a cruiser that the Germans would have to fight. Typically, this British fleet dies on round one. There's another transport over here, but we can pump out a couple of subs a turn. We're going to see if that can't do the trick. So, mathematically, Austro-Hungary gets 26, Germans are making their 35, and the Russians are making 25. So, mathematically, the Austro-Hungarians and the Germans together should be able to take Moscow on or about turn 4. All right, mathematically speaking, if we went low luck, which I'm not going to do today. We're gonna have some fun with the dice. The problem is that Germany tends to like getting these territories here and squishing the French economy a little bit. So the delaying action will have to likely involve putting some forces into Belgium so the French don't get some easy money there. It'll be an interesting fight, though. So that's the goal. Keep the British off the continent. Right? Because if you can keep the British off the continent, then it's just the French trying to attack Germany. Not a great... not very easy for the French to do. They have 24, I believe, is their starting income. So the Italians are not in the war yet. They're only making $7, and they will roll. And on round 1, they have to roll a 1 to get into the war. On round 2, they have to roll a 2 or less. Round 3, they got to roll a 3 or less. Round 4, yeah, you get the idea. And until that time, they're not allowed to leave their territories. So they can't even go grab Albania. And they can't move anybody in Africa. They just have to keep plugging along with trying to build up. Good news, bad news. Austro-Hungarians then can essentially leave these empty and send everything they want this way. But by the time Italy is in the war, they can have a stack pretty good here. Typically 25 guys and maybe 10 to 15 artillery. So, can be a problem. I guess we'll see how it goes. The Ottoman, if the Germans are successful in holding the British off the continent, then the British are going to have to put more force here. There is a build limit of 5 in India. That's my house rule, which is shared by others. I didn't come up with it. Other people say 4. Other people say unlimited. We'll stick with the build limit of 5. But the Ottomans can compete with that. And if they can compete with that, and if they'll scoop this on round 1, then they might be able to punch into Sevastopol. We'll see what the Russian response is. Now, the Russians know what's going to be coming, so they'll probably try to load up Moscow as best they can. But you can't survive in this game sitting in your capital waiting for other people to show up, because other people will not be showing up. Right? Russia is all alone. Right? There's nobody coming to help Russia anytime soon. The closest that could be would be the British, and that would be a fairly anemic assistance package coming their way. So Russia is basically on her own, which is essentially the way it was in World War I. So, all right, so round 1 coming up. The Austro-Hungarians going to grab Romania and possibly take a poke at Poland and or Ukraine, maybe Poland, and let the Germans just walk in, likely on their turn. But we don't know if that's... I don't think enough Austro-Hungarians can get there, so... so many choices. All right, round 1 coming up. See if we can get the... Oh, there's one more thing that was going to help out the Central Powers. America will not be entering the war until turn 4. Okay, turn 4... is the turn that America can enter the war. So that'll be one more turn that they build up, but one more turn until they land in Greece or Albania here to start threatening Vienna directly. So if they come in turn 4, at the end of 4 they're here, and then on turn 5 they can be here. Well, if Moscow is fallen by turn 4 or 5, then the Austro-Hungarians can start building up in earnest here and answer that large buildup. So I'm just trying to make the game a little bit more balanced that way. A lot of people have chimed in with their ideas, and they're awesome ideas. Really appreciate them. And we're going to see how this goes today. So, without any further ado, hey Serbia, here's looking at you. All right, round 1 is done. Yeah, not a lot of surprises.
Here's Johnny.
The Russians backed out of Poland, so the Germans just got to walk in. Austro-Hungary stayed out of Ukraine, just didn't have the horses. So it took Romania with authority and took Serbia. But the Serbians got 3 hits on the incoming Austro-Hungarians, so down to 3 infantry there in Serbia. So the Serbians sure put paid to their tenacity, especially in real history, right? They stopped the Austro-Hungarians cold. Not much else here. The Russians just kind of trying to make it difficult, but knowing what I know, there's going to be a huge storm coming here. We've got quite a bit of Austro-Hungarian stuff that's all going to pour into Ukraine. And if they get real lucky dice, they might be able to take this out, because there's less than 20 here. They're coming in with over 30, so if they get lucky with the dice, they could wipe it all out. So that would spell some bad news. British had some trouble in Persia, only got 3 hits. And so the Persians are now allied with the Ottoman. But the Ottomans, as you know, are pretty thin to start the game. Don't have a lot of stuff. But again, not a lot of natural enemies. British came here and activated Arabia, as well as down here in Africa. So it took German, Belgian Congo. Here, the British came with their 3 units, 2 from here, 1 from here. Came in and dispatched the Germans. So the Germans are down to their 3 infantry. That's all they got left in Africa. The French, as I like to do, are going to load up here and come in here and attack wherever the Germans are, and with 2-to-1 odds. And Portugal, of course, some freebie stuff for the French. And the German attack went very well. They only lost 2 subs. And the British then brought over a cruiser from Canada, built a cruiser, because the French had put a battleship there. So But the Germans are going to have to attack it before the French load up another battleship and cruiser here. So it's going to have to be a bit of an attrition here. Germans built 2 subs. Unfortunately, the game only comes with the 4 subs for setup, so yeah, I'll have to start chipping if they don't run out of subs, or if they don't get subs sunk. Holland were a little feisty, and so they were unable to get total control of that. But they were able to get into Belgium and took that for the loss of 1 or 2 infantry. And the British landed some Canadians over here, as you can see. And that's pretty much it. Italy, of course, did not roll a 1. And so just move things around a little bit, trying to maybe make the Austro-Hungarians think about their western border, but for now, all roads lead to Moscow. All right, round 2 is coming up. What's going to happen to Ukraine? All right, round 2 is done, and the gates of Moscow are being assailed.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
But only by a couple infantry here. And the Russians skedaddled out of Ukraine, but they left one guy behind so that the Austro-Hungarians couldn't move right into Moscow this round. Now what that did was it kept the Germans back, because they didn't have enough stuff for the Germans to move into here. It would have been a little too difficult. The Russians probably could have attacked, and if not destroyed, it really could have hurt them, and then we're starting all over again. And I really want to make this one big kaboom, which will likely be not this coming round, not 3, but round 4. Round 4, Moscow will be assaulted by pretty much everything you see here. Now, the Austro-Hungarians may have to pull some stuff back, though, because guess who rolled a 2 at the end of their turn? Italy. So Italy is in. Now, I know some people play Don't Let Italy in until round 3, but you gotta lie in the bed you make, right? So that's my rule, and we gotta stick with it. Now, Italy doesn't have a ton of stuff either, right? Like, they're not they got 26 units or something they can bring in, which will not be enough to take Vienna. And if they get destroyed, well, they don't have anything following it up. But on this turn, they will be able to go into Albania and scoop that $2. So that'll change things a little bit. The Austro-Hungarians have had to circle the wagons a little bit here, because the Russians, even though Moscow is under siege, decided to just evacuate Sevastopol, come down here, defeat the lone Turk, which allowed the British to move forward. Now that means Russia gets the money, not Britain. So when Moscow falls, this can be taken by the British, but they can't get it for obviously a few turns. Turks trying to shore things up here in Ankara, depending tomato. Always looking at each other across the Suez Canal here. Africa, the French came down, and the 4 Frenchmen actually got their 2 hits, and the 2 Germans only got 1 hit in return. So Nigeria will be liberated this round, and this last German will likely die. Now, I know some people bulk up everybody in Africa, so they add a few more Germans, they add a few more Brits, and a few more French, just so that Africa remains relevant longer. Yeah, you can do that. Nothing against some good house rules. I tend to like having Africa out of sight, out of mind.
That's kind of racist.
So we can focus on the rest of the game myself. But leave your comments below. What do you think? Should we bulk up Africa? Over here, the French have moved forward, quite the tour de force there, and taken Belgium. Holland fell to the Germans. The German Navy is no more over here. They were able to sink everything, but they lost everything doing it, and then the British built a couple of transports, a couple of subs here. Not enough to take this out. We'll probably have to build more subs in order to threaten, and I mean a lot more. Like, I might have to build like 5 subs to really make these guys nervous here. But those mines are tricky things coming through. As you can see, the Ruhr is wide open, so we're going to have to move in these fellas to block that. But the French do have quite a bit there. So the Germans are likely going to be losing some of their frontier territory here over the next turn or two. But that's the trade-off, right, for Moscow. As usual, the Americans are just collecting money. They have $60 now. And we'll get another 20 next round before they can actually enter the war. Remember, they're coming in a turn later today. So, things are getting interesting. Obviously, Austria-Hungary is going to take Sevastopol and Ukraine this round. But they are going to have to run west with some of their forces. Had Italy not rolled that, then perhaps Moscow's fate is entirely sealed, but since they did, now Austria-Hungary will have to build with the West in mind. All right, turn 3 coming up. Going to be interesting. Round 3 is done, and the battle lines have been clearly drawn. As you can see, Germany is loaded up for bear to head into Moscow, and the Austro-Hungarians are definitely going to soften it up. So this could be it. The Russians will get one more build, but they only have $14, so that will be a maximum of 4 units for them. And they're going to get hit with a lot more than that and what they have. So, but hey, the dice, they just do their thing. Over here, the British and the Soviets are both, well, the Russians, pardon me, not the Soviets yet. Russians are in Mesopotamia en masse, which had to draw some attention away from Constantinople, because the Turks certainly don't want to lose Ankara. But there's not enough British stuff to take Ankara and hold it against a determined Ottoman counterattack. More stuff coming up to Egypt here now that the Germans are well and truly gone. They are toast history, and the Italians are even on the move. Speaking of the Italians, they're in Albania and enjoy. Oh, I forgot to chip the extra stuff they got. I just moved them up there. So they will get 1 artillery. Oh, got the hiccups. And 3 more guys. So a little bit more of a force there now. And they took Tyrolia with 1 because, as I mentioned before, yeah, it's a decent little stack they got going here. But had they attacked Trieste or gone into Tyrolia, it's a good chance that the Austro-Hungarians would have dispatched them in the next couple of rounds. I did buy a fighter for Italy, though, because they do have a lot of artillery, and that will force Austria-Hungary to buy another fighter next round. Up here, the Ruhr is now contested, and you can see I'm using a couple of my plates here. So the Germans have that. They've got 11 artillery and 4 infantry left. They actually lost 11, and the French lost 10. So the Germans rolled very well, because the French still have quite a bit of stuff here, including a couple of fighters, which allows them, their artillery, to punch a little harder, but they didn't really get the rolls. They only got 11 hits with all that stuff, and they had about 30 units, so, and 8 of them were shooting at 4, so not really good. But there's a lot of stuff coming up this way, up the coast, and the British are landing in force now. Actually built a battleship last round, and that was, and a sub, because the Germans built a battleship and a couple of subs. So that's why Germany's a little weaker on the ground, but the idea is that they want to try to stop the British from landing, because once the British start landing 10 or 12 troops a turn, it's essentially like having an extra capital over here, and the Germans just don't want that. So that's why they're putting so much money into naval stuff this game. Might be a losing proposition, though, but we're going to keep trying, because, well, that's what we said we would try to do. And if it fails miserably, we'll know, don't do that anymore. But Moscow in a bit of trouble. The Turks getting squeezed a little bit, but again, the only enemy they really have are the Brits, who are a little preoccupied up in France right now. But with the Italians on the loose, who knows what could happen? They are ready to mess things up here with the Central Powers Don't know if they got enough stuff to do it, but we shall see. What's going to happen in the Ruhr? Is there enough German stuff here to take out the French? I don't think so. And they only built 6 guys in Berlin last round. It's getting a little thin, and there's no help coming anytime soon. Could be an interesting run here. Do the French and British have enough? Time will tell. One more round before the Americans get to move. Western Front, that's where the action is. Okay, so round 4 is complete, and Moscow remains, but not looking real healthy, although it did hold off the Austro-Hungarians. Austria-Hungary got a good number of hits, but not as much as Russia got on them. Now, Russia had a good number of units in there, 51, I believe, and they ended up getting 25 hits on the Austro-Hungarians, so you can see they got right into their artillery and everything. And then the Germans came in and took a good chunk out, but the Russians still haven't lost any artillery, but they are down to $5.
I'm rich! I'm wealthy! Yahoo!
So 1 unit this next turn. But you can see there's no follow-up here because the Germans and the Austro-Hungarians have troubles on the Western Front. As we look over here, the 2 standards are still there in the Ruhr Valley, so the Germans are down $6 on that. And this is what they have left in there. They've got 21 tanks, 1 infantry, and the French have 1 guy and 2 planes. So after the German turn, they decided not to do an attack there. But they did come into Alsace, and they went in and took Holland because the Germans had poured everything into their attack on Ruhr, trying to oust the French, and they missed it, as you can see, by 1 roll. 1 die. So the British continue to build up their fleet and are shipping 4 units over right now. Fairly humble offloading here, but the Germans just didn't have enough to try to plow into that last turn. They might do it this turn because now they are only having to go into 1 C-zone with mines instead of over here to 2. Now I moved the British and French over here because now they can offload directly into Belgium and threaten the Ruhr immediately. Very important. French picked up some guys in Portugal, dropped them off in Marseille, and there is 1 lone Frenchman down here and a French boat coming to get him and drop him off to take the final piece of the German-African empirical dream. Down here, the Ottomans, I tell you, they're always an interesting one to try to figure out. So I am bringing up multinational forces here into Northeast Africa, and so the Ottomans aren't able to really let go of Transjordan too simply. Again, if they do, then they're going to be defending at 2 different spots, and that $1 sometimes makes a difference. British move some more stuff over here, and they're continuing to put pressure on in Mesopotamia. Now the Ottomans did send out about another 10-12 units into Ankara. Too much for the British to try to attack and win, and certainly for the Russians. But Constantinople is a little thin right now. Little thin. But Bulgaria had to be bulked up, so they had to pull out about 11 units out of Constantinople in order to help out Bulgaria because the Italians are mucking things up here and moving into Serbia, threatening the expensive land of Budapest and Romania. So on the Turkish turn, they might have to try to do something about that. The Austro-Hungarians have their hands full with the Italians here, and the French trying to poke their noses into everybody's business over there. But now that we're going on to turn 5, the build from turn 4 is ready to go, and they are going to be in the fight. There are 8 transports, 8 men, and 8 artillery ready to come across. So that's 16 units that'll be coming over, ready to cause some havoc. Not exactly sure where they're going to end up, but typically it's fun to threaten Austria-Hungary with them, or possibly the Turks, because a landing of 16 units likely would take Constantinople in this shape. So as these boats come over, so turn 5, turn 6, it would take till turn 7 before that they could actually threaten. But who knows what kind of problems the Ottoman will be having at that time. Now, the big problem for the Ottoman is that Austria-Hungary took all of this stuff. Right? They took all these things, and so the Ottomans typically will have one or two of these at some point in the game, but they don't have them, and indeed they've lost Mesopotamia worth 3. Looking at Moscow a little bit more closely, just 1 Austro-Hungarian infantry left with 8 artillery and a fighter. Likely not enough to take a poke. We could bring in 1 more guy, but he's probably going to come down to Kazakhstan and take that, because a buck is a buck is a buck. These 4 units are probably going to stand pat, try to defend the southern flank a little bit. Now, if the British peel off to attack, they can certainly do that, but then that'll relieve all the pressure on Ottoman, which the British do not want to do, definitely. All right, so that is where we stand after round 4, and will Russia survive 1 more round? Going to be a little dicey, a little touch and go. The Germans do have a decent amount of stuff here, and with the Russians only putting on 1 more unit, I may just force the issue with the Ottomans, even if I can peel off a few artillery and maybe put some pressure, or not some pressure, but give some encouragement to the Germans when they do their follow-up attack. Because you really want to put this to bed as soon as you can, right? You don't want it dragging out. Up here, the Italians and the Austro-Hungarians are staring at each other across the mountains here. Tyrolean range is up there somewhere, and neither side has enough to take out the other stack, so a little bit of a stalemate, which always works in the alliance's favor. The Central Powers don't like stalemates in this game, now that the Americans are involved especially. Alright, round 5 coming up. Will Moscow hold, or will it be do svidaniya? Round 5, all done, and Moscow is no longer under Russian control. Yes, in fact, every single territory in Russian Empire holding is no longer under Russian Empire control. They lost everything. All they have left on the board are these 2 bad boys, well, 4 bad boys and a couple of cruisers, which will likely make a suicide run versus the Turks here in a moment. But that's it. That's it for the Russians. Everything they had is now gone. But since we're down here, we'll let you know what's going on here. The British have thus taken control of Persia, because the Russians are out now. Moscow is gone, and likely not, well, it can't be liberated in this game if I read the rules properly. But maybe that's a Russian Revolution tweak. I was reading the new rule book, so... but once it's gone, allies can just take their territories and take them for their own. And no liberation of the capital is possible. But maybe I read that wrong. I'm going to go back and take a look. But over here, the British are starting to put on some pressure onto the Ottomans as best as they can. Did a nice landing in Transjordan, got a lot of good hits. The Ottomans just got a few back. I think they only got 2 hits back. 2 or 3, so not as much, and the British are starting to build up some force here and continuing with their 5-unit build per turn. The French and the Italians are here ready to cross into Transjordan to help out. Only 3 units remain there. Smyrna is empty, and Ankara, though stacked up, it isn't going to get a lot of help from here. Bulgaria is empty right now. They went in to fight the 6 Italian units that were in there, and they got 5 hits, so almost got them all, but then the Italians got 6 out of 6 hits. Good grief. I think I got 4 ones. 4 ones, a 2, and a 3, I think, is what they got. So they landed some more in Albania, and came into Trieste. They brought the entire farm, as it were. The entire pasture ranch has moved into Trieste. And that's going to give the Austro-Hungarians something to think about, as the French are nibbling away at the German money, and the British have joined them to make a bit of a force here. But the Germans have kicked out the French out of the Ruhr, because there really was only 1 guy and 2 planes left, and it was a mental error. I should have withdrew those planes, because they weren't going to do anything. And so the Germans came in, and that is what they now have in the Ruhr. So they have... sizable force, not enough to dispatch all this stuff, but enough to hold them off. And of course, all of this hardware will be heading west, ASAP. In Vienna, some tanks. First tanks of the game have been built here. You got to be careful with tanks, right? They cost 6. They do absorb a hit in attack, but if you end up with a big stack on defense, they only defend at a 1, and they don't use their double hits at that point. So if they're ever vulnerable, that's a costly way to lose a stack of 6 IPC units. So careful with that. I suggest caution, but there is something nice about having a stack of men and a stack of tanks march into some place. They do absorb those hits, which is nice. Over here, the French retain control of Holland, and not much else to be done for them there. And a steady stream of material continues its way up the coast, although they are now out of planes, so they'll probably want to get one of those. The British have a plane in there, and the Germans have one plane, and another here, and the Austro-Hungarians have another here. So planes are important. So Austria-Hungary on its turn will likely have to try to unseat the Italians here in Trieste. If that goes well, then they can begin putting some pressure directly on Italian territory. If it goes poorly, well, let's just think positively.
Well, good luck with that.
And they do have 3 tanks, so they're going to absorb the first 3 hits that the Italians get. But the Italian, if their fighter wins the duel of the air, that's going to raise all of these artillery up to 4 on defense. So that could be problematic. Austro-Hungarians do outnumber them a little bit here. So probably be a victory, but probably not an outright destruction. They'll probably kill a few more Italians. But again, the dice are the dice. The Americans decided to invade Spanish Morocco and lost 2 units doing it. The artillery that's sitting there got its preparatory bombardment and killed something, and then they got another hit at the actual landing. So I'm dispatching one of the transports to head back, and it'll help pick up some of that stuff over there next round. But this is still a pretty decent stack here, 14 units, and going to come and cause some trouble next turn, likely into Albania, which is why the Austro-Hungarians would like to get rid of these Italians as soon as possible. Well, that's the end of round 5. Round 6 coming up. Got to get the French down here to take this last little nugget of German imperialism. But looks like they got a lot of imperialism going on over here. All right, round 6 coming up. Sorry there, Russia. Out of the game. But the Americans are in. Will it be enough? Or will the CP finally be able to get a victory? We'll let you know. Well, the game's getting pretty interesting here. The Eastern Front, of course, is kaput, as it were, and the Germans and Austro-Hungarians are making the slow march back to hopefully have an impact on the Western Front. Let's head down here, India-Persia region and the Ottomans. So continuing to send across 4 units per turn into Mesopotamia, and then some extras coming in. The big battle in Ankara. Very bloody. Both sides lost quite a bit of materiel, and the British and the Turks are almost evenly matched here. I think the British have maybe 4 more artillery or so. So pretty evenly matched there. Over here, Transjordan did fall, and then the French landed in Smyrna to scoop 2 bucks, and the Turks attacked with 4 infantry. They all missed, and then the Frenchmen missed, so there you can see it.
They suspended 2 of their fighters during their playoffs in this tournament to win $1 million because they were boring.
The Americans decided to land in Greece and lost 1 unit, I think. They only lost 1 to the Greeks on their 5 defense dice with the preliminary artillery. So they only lost 1 guy, which means now they actually outnumber the Ottomans in their own capital. So I think likely what's going to happen here is the British are going to attack Smyrna from Transjordan, and they're definitely going to be attacking Ankara some more. And if they can wipe out all this stuff, Constantinople is going to stand alone with this, plus what they can build. They only have $11 from last round. Their guys are up here in Serbia, so they can't get back to help out. So yeah, they're actually very, very quickly they got into some trouble here. And I think moving the Americans here was the right move, because that has definitely put the pressure on the capital. Now, right now in Constantinople, they have 11 units. So yes, the Americans outnumber them. So if the Brits are able to get rid of this stack here, that's a tall order. I don't think they can get rid of it, but if they can knock it down, and then next turn be able to follow it up with an attack on the capital, that could be it for the Turks. In Austria-Hungary here, the Italians decided to relocate their forces back. Big battle at the beginning, and they got beat up really badly. But they gave as good as they got. And then the French came in just to be there so that the Italians could evacuate. And that'll keep the Austro-Hungarians tied down. Italy also scooped Tyrolia, because why not? It's there for the taking. Over here, the Germans and the French had a massive battle in Belgium. And the Germans lost about 20 units, if I recall correctly. And the French lost about 18, I think. So big battle. And there are no more aircraft there. And you can see some German forces here in Munich, and a little bit of follow-up. But the French came along and scooped a bunch of stuff here, so they're sitting on some pretty big fat stacks here. I think they've got $42 to spend next round. And likely these Germans, actually they can't move from there. So they are stuck. They cannot move, and so likely going to just play defense there. The British built a couple more transports, so they'll be able to bring over 8 units per turn now. There's only 9 in London, so they're going to probably start building a bit more there. And no more naval presence, of course. The German Navy is gone. They did an attack, and it was disastrous. They lost 2 subs to mines. Their subs missed. Their battleships each got 1 hit, and then the Allied combined fleet wiped them out in 1 round. So that's it for the German foray into the North Sea. Now, you could say it has worked out, because they sent everything towards Moscow and have just been fighting a bit of a delaying action here. And yes, France has a lot of their territory, but that's all going to get scooped this round. And then they can send all their money this way. And their money is substantial. They're in the 40s constantly. Even with the loss of all their African territories, yes, the French were able to wrest control of the Southwest African territory of Namibia. All right, the Americans just have the modest landing here of 2 units and only 4 units next round. Takes a little while to get the shuck going in this game, but they'll get her going. All right, but that's where we stand. That's very interesting round 6, though. So round 7, it'll be interesting to see if Constantinople can hold out in this game. It will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what the British can do. If they get really, really good dice, this could be it. The British do outnumber them. Not by a ton, but by about 6 units, plus they have the air. So yeah, those 4s can be devastating. All right, round 7 coming up. Moscow's gone. Constantinople could be the next capital to fall. But the French are at the gates of Berlin. Look out. All right, round 7 is done. Things are looking a little bleak down here. We're going to head down for the Ottoman, and yeah, the British hit with almost every single thing, and the Ottoman only got 4 hits back. It was pretty bad. Pretty bad. And Smyrna, They also wiped them out, only got one loss for the British. And in Constantinople, the Americans landed, and the Turks are down to 4 units in their capital. So Constantinople is definitely going to fall to the British this next round. Nothing can stop that. And the Turks are coming down here hoping to maybe help out, but no, the Americans they had a devastating attack coming into Constantinople, and the Turks rolled nothing. I think however many infantry the Americans had left. So they lost 2 over here, and then they lost, I think, 1 here, 1 or 2 here, and so yeah, they lost like 4 infantry, I think. So yeah, just really bad dice for the Turks in 2 key battles. Had the dice gone the other way, it'd be a totally different outcome down here. But what does that mean for the game? Well, not really sure, but once the British are down here with no natural enemies, all of a sudden all this nice juicy land could get taken up. And Austria-Hungary, though, is pretty powerful right now, pretty healthy. The Italians, of course, being Italy, are trying to threaten some of these different areas. The Austro-Hungarians will definitely have to take out the Serbian contingent here, or the Italian contingent in Serbia. But as you can see, the Italians have had to back off because there's just too much stuff here. They wouldn't be able to defend it, and they have such a small economy. They've been pulling in 18, 20 bucks around here, but that's just going to shrink very quickly. Up here, the line has stabilized between the Germans and the French and English, but the British are holding firm in Alsace. They have, similar to what the Germans have, but the French booted out the Germans out of Belgium with authority and are now having their sights back going into the Ruhr Valley again. Now, the Germans do have a bunch of tanks, so they're going to want to keep them back of the front line, though, so that they can use them in an attack posture to take advantage of the higher dice roll and the absorption of defense hits. Again, the British are able to land 8 units at a time. They only have 7 to land this turn, so might have to send a transport over to pick up some guys from Canada, start bringing them over to keep the war effort strong in the colonies. The Americans landed a couple of more boatloads here and are sending over their big stack of boats to go and start to pick up larger stacks. The shuck has begun. Not in earnest, but it's getting there. So, long story short, Moscow's gone, Constantinople will be gone. And the trench warfare seems to be a real thing here. It looks like it could actually happen. And that makes the game drag, unfortunately, but it is what it is. And you never know, you do have those rounds. Like, if you would have seen the dice in these battles, you would not have believed it. It was unbelievably tilted. Similar to some of the Russian battles this game, they had very poor dice.
Stop whining.
But that's why we play. Let the dice tell the tale. Round 8 coming up. Take me down to Constantinople. Alright, well, despite Moscow falling, it seems as though the game is headed down the same path. Now, the problem with playing a solo game is I have my habits and I have my expectations, and I did follow what I said I was going to do, as the Germans and the Austro-Hungarians are going to take Moscow and then try to head back west. But unfortunately, what's happened here is, with the Ottoman Empire falling, as you can see, and not even close, obviously, a big stack of artillery there supported by air, so the Ottomans have been dismantled quite vigorously by the British. A little bit of help from the Russians here, came up here, killed a couple of Austro-Hungarians, and then the British finished the job. So the British have Sevastopol now, and are sitting there with 8 men, plus the 3 Russian units, and more are going to be moving up. So all of this territory now is likely going to start heading towards the Allies, unless the Germans decide to come back and fight for it, which they are more than welcome to do. Now in the south here, with the Americans taking Bulgaria, Austria-Hungary, their economy is going to start to shrink a little bit. It's going to contract a little bit. Now they did come up here and take Trieste, and obviously Piedmont is ripe for the picking. But what they have here just likely is not enough now. Before the Americans and French moved in, it was kind of 50-50, but now there's an extra 7 units, and highly unlikely that they'll be able to dislodge the Italians, unless they keep concerted effort on, which will allow these Italians and these Americans and these Brits to run, unabated right towards Vienna. On the Western Front, I should film these dice rolls, but the Germans did get some hits in there, absolutely. They killed a few things, but they got taken out of Alsace, lock, stock, and smoke and barrels. They are gone. And then the French just, how you doing, hopped into Ruhr. And the Germans, good stack of equipment sitting here, but that's it. That's it. And then they got this small army down here. So I'm going to play one more round, see how it goes. We have another 6 American units that are going to be heading over here to beef up the Italian peninsula a bit. And obviously the French can bring stuff into Burgundy now because there really is no great threat on the Western Front. If the Germans come forward with all this stuff, they're going to get hammered on by combined Franco-Anglo attack. And it'll just be a losing proposition. And as I just look through the crystal ball, all of this is going to be British. Right? It's just going to start getting taken up by the Brits. And the Germans just don't... Well, this is why they did it this way. They only wanted a one-front war. Because the Ottomans, though, they crumbled. And I think one of the problems was... I don't know how big a deal it was. But the Austro-Hungarians took all of this money. Which made them into a bit of a beast, right? They got lots of stuff. But what that did was it denied the Ottomans the extra $3, sometimes extra $6 that they sometimes enjoy in these games, which allow them to keep the British at bay a little bit longer. Maybe that's something that I kind of fouled up with the Austro-Hungarians. I really didn't want them dying, and if you've watched my videos, you know that they tend to die quite energetically in my games. This game, though, they actually punched above their weight, did a really good job thinning out the Ruskies before the Germans showed up. And now they're, it's a good army, but just way too much stuff here for them to take on. Again, unless they just say, forget all this stuff, we're just going to keep heading this way. But it's hard to ignore, right? You've got a small stack of Americans here. Not a ton of stuff, right? Just 9 units. It's not a ton. And the Austro-Hungarians might be able to attack them this turn and wipe them out. But then here come the Brits, right, with their 20-some units and more on the way. So I think this one's a foregone conclusion again. I think it's just down to math at this point. But we're going to play one more round and see if there's any weird things that happen. To make it worth my while, I'll probably have to do an attack with the Austro-Hungarians into Italy. Because if I just sit there, then it's just going to be over because more Americans are going to land and the Italians are going to build more stuff. And Austria-Hungary can't ignore what's going on over here. They also have this stack of Italians in Albania that can't be dismissed. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with them, to tell you the truth. But I think it's pretty much over for the Central Powers again. And fairly quickly, I think if we kept playing it to death, then, it'd probably go turn 14, 15. But I just don't see anything different happening. I believe the writing's on the wall. And this is just another loss for the CP, despite the Americans being late and despite Moscow falling. There you have it. All right, here we go, turn 9. And I guess we'll see what we see. And it looks like that's going to be the end of things. And just so you know, the British this turn made 72. I think that's the record for any game I've ever had. 72, and that number is just going to go up as they start to expand into the Russian hinterland. There's one Austro-Hungarian hanging out here. But even now, as we speak, they've been kicked out of Albania by a joint Italian-American effort. And they are pretty much huddled in their capital. They got beat up in Trieste. They did, destroy a lot of stuff, but there's just not much there. And now the Brits are here. And what the Brits have is right there. Not a ton of stuff, but still about 16 units that they'd have to face. It's pretty much equal to what the Germans are bringing in. But the French are also there, and the French have 17 artillery, a couple of men, and a plane. And so together, the Germans cannot defeat both of them. They might be able to stalemate one, but then the other would rush in and finish them off with more Frenchmen on the way and a steady stream of Brits who now have 5 transports and the money to build pretty much whatever they want. So they're going to have 5 artillery and 5 men coming across the channel next turn. And the Germans are just losing tons and tons and tons of money at this point. And again, you don't want to stick your neck out with those tanks because then they become useless, as the Austro-Hungarian tanks found out here in Albania. Not really much else to say. The Mediterranean has been obviously closed for a while to any Central Power activity. The Americans have a decent shuck going right now. They've got 3 guys here. They've got lots of transports here to bring guys back and forth. That's how they were able to bring over 10 units into Albania this last round. 6 from Spanish Morocco and 4 from Tuscany. So the French making over 40 bucks. The British with 72. And even Italy kind of hanging in there and being an annoyance. And the Americans are making 25. They made 25 this turn, and it looks like they'll be holding on to that for the foreseeable future, if not a little bit of expansion on that. So we're going to call the game there. I think it's just I don't have the time to see where this one goes. I want to make sure that I get this video up today. So if you're watching it, I was successful. Thanks for watching though, folks, and hope you enjoyed it. Keep sending ideas in as to different things that can happen. I use somebody's America doesn't come until round 4. And yeah, but Moscow did fall. So I actually had some hope for the Central Powers. But leaving France alone for that long and able to make a decent amount of scratch for a while just ended up being too much for the Germans to assail.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
I think they got into Lorraine briefly and Belgium, but that's as far as the Germans got this game. So, not convinced I did it properly. Too much money in the water, perhaps. I think I only stalled the Brits for 1, maybe 2 turns. So maybe all that should have just gone into men, meat shields, and just marched down the English Channel coast. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. All right, now we know though. Big German Navy, maybe not such a great idea. Let me know in the comments below if you've done that and had more success than I did. But thanks for watching, folks, and remember, hug your loved ones. Thank your friends for playing, and as we always say here at the Hilltop Pillbox, may those dice be with you.